Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Dr. Psych Mom Show. Today, I am going to talk about why not to complain about stuff that you would actually want to do if you got divorced, and how this could be a helpful lens through which to view your contributions at home, as well as a helpful way to zoom out and see on a macro level whether you're complaining about stuff that you don't want to really complain about because it's not honest. Before that, please do subscribe. My most recent subscriber episode was about what I call the stupid man cold idea. So if you've ever used the term man cold, then you should listen to that, subscriber only episode. Okay, so what do I mean by you shouldn't complain about stuff that you would want to do after the divorce? So when people get divorced, all of a sudden, it's like a lot of their emotional labor stuff goes out the window. So for example, women who are complaining about doing everything related to picking the kids' activities and, deciding this or deciding that for the children, they want to decide everything. They're like, really quite upset if they don't get to decide things because they actually wanted all along to be the one who is deciding shit for the kids. This isn't everybody, but I mean, it's quite honestly everybody I've met, and I work with hundreds of people. But I mean, there must be some women somewhere that are like, phew, I'm divorced, never going to pick an activity for the kids again. But I really don't see those people because I don't think many of them exist. And similarly, like a lot of women complain about the holidays, let's say, before they get divorced when they're still married. And then afterwards, they just wish that they had like every holiday with the kids. Of course, they're good people. They don't necessarily want the kid to never see dad on Christmas. But like if somehow magically they could have 2 Christmases that were both really Christmas, then, for sure they would want every one of those. And all of a sudden, the planning and stuff for holidays or Thanksgiving or Christmas or whatever does not turn into a big deal. It's not because there's half of them. It's because you realize that and the reason I say that is because when you get another one, like if, the woman ends up with an extra Thanksgiving because the guy is going out of town with his new wife or whatever the case may be, she's thrilled. She's not like, that motherfucker, I didn't want Thanksgiving this year, I just had Thanksgiving. Like that does not happen. Instead, the women are like really excited to have the kids more. So you got to really think about this. The reason that this could be a really helpful frame is you don't want to ruin your marriage. You don't want to sacrifice it on the altar of lies. And you're not lying purposefully or maliciously. You're lying unconsciously. The lies are, you're lying to yourself. You're deluding yourself in many ways. And you're saying that certain things are just beyond the pale and totally, that you totally can't deal with them, when in reality, there may be some things like that, but they're not all the things that you think are like that, because after divorce, this goes so differently for so many people that I must conclude that before divorce, it would be useful for them to recognize that a lot of the shit that they're complaining about is actually stuff that they actually like to do, which could help you from ruining your marriage in real time because you could stop complaining about so much stuff. Obviously, both genders can complain about a lot of stuff, but the difference seems to be that after divorce, the stuff that men complained about, it's not like they realize that, that actually, like, it wasn't so bad. I don't see that a lot. I mean, it's not like men are like, we never had sex. And you know what? Now that I'm divorced, I realize I never wanted sex. Like, that's just what society was telling me. In fact, I wish I was back in that sexless marriage. No, nobody says that, or they're like, my wife was really, anxious and rigid. And man, I miss it, like I never knew how useful that was. That just doesn't happen. As much as like women like to tell themselves, because anxiety is an ego-syntonic disorder, which means that it makes you feel good about yourself, versus ego-dystonic. I think I've discussed this before, like depression. Nobody wants to feel depressed. Nobody thinks being depressed makes you a better worker, but plenty of people think inaccurately that being anxious makes them a better worker. In reality, they're talking about conscientious, which does not mean generalized anxiety disorder, But anyway, basically what I see is that after they divorce, there's a lot of guys that are not still fighting about the same things. But there's a lot of women who've all of a sudden flipped on certain things, and certain things that they considered emotional labor, let's say before, turn into things that they really, really want. such as control over what the children do, or, to pick out what the kids do for hobbies and for, sports and what have you. Or they want to they want to get all the time that they can with the children, even though they had been complaining a lot about having too much time with the children. So the point that I'm making here is not that, I don't know, people always can find some shit to complain about, right? I mean, that's the topic, but also like about my podcast. But so you could say that I'm saying that men somehow know what they want more than women do in this regard. I mean, yeah, in this lone regard, I mean, I've said a million times, I even have like literally a post or maybe also a podcast that's like, here's 6 reasons you don't really want a porn star in bed. So like, it's not like I don't say that men don't know their own minds either. But in this specific sense of saying that certain things are emotionally laborious and that you wish to cede them over to your spouse, that after divorce very quickly becomes something that you don't in fact want to cede to your spouse. So the reason that I'm bringing this up is because if you can like kind of own that, then you could be actually happy to be in a marriage where you get to be in charge of all the holiday decorations, or what the kids do for extracurriculars, or planning the vacations, or whatever the hell it is that you would actually want to do after divorce. And the less stuff you complain about, the less likely it is that you'll actually get divorced. So this is in service of saving marriages that don't really have to end, because people are kind of being more honest and truthful with themselves about what they do and don't like, and may look at it as like an actual positive. In this marriage, for example, a woman would say, in this marriage, I am lucky because I get to make the decisions about everything that the kids do, which is something that when I think about it, I really would want to do. If we got divorced, I would want to do that. This is a thing that I like to do. I don't necessarily think that my husband understands what the kids need with their development and their, hobbies and their interests. I don't think he knows that stuff as well as me. I love to do that stuff if I'm honest with myself. I love it. And I love to figure out the shit that they should do. Would I love to have like an amanuensis who I just tell, Bobby likes baseball and has, freedom on Tuesdays at 4:30, and then they look it up for me? Yeah, I would like to have such a virtual assistant, but if my husband doesn't do that for me, it is in fact better net that I both make the decisions and do the work for it than that I don't get to make the decisions. I mean, this is kind of, you would have to really be objective and kind of know yourself very well. And I've written about this topic a lot where, like, I have a post called, do you really want to split all household decisions with your husband, or are you lying? Which is, as per usual, quite direct and really, summarizes what I'm saying, which is, most women after divorce want to know what the kids are doing. They want to be in charge of what the kids do, eat, how they live, everything. I've never met a woman who's like, they just go to their dad's. And I'm like, awesome, because I'm just 100% thrilled with everything he chooses to do. And it's probably better than at my house. Like, nobody says that. Like, I'm being real with you, Nobody says it. Nobody thinks it. If there was like an ideal world where you would get to also choose what happens at his house, then women would take it. Like 95% of women would take it. So therefore, you're already in that situation, by being married. So you're already getting to choose all that shit that you would want to choose anyway afterwards. So it could be good to appreciate that situation. I'm not saying you may not have other reasons to divorce. Obviously, I'm divorced, I mean, I'm certainly not saying people ought to stay in very unhappy, unfulfilling relationships with hostility and conflict because they would like to make the choice about what the children eat. But what I'm saying is this: don't say to yourself, don't lie to yourself, is basically a big precept of what I talk about and how I try to to instruct, clients and listeners and readers and everything. You got to be true to yourself, because there are some people, particularly highly anxious and or conscientious people, that love to have the control, but they just kind of get caught, but they're very, very tired, because anxiety does make you tired. And so then they say that maybe they're tired because they're not splitting decisions, but they don't want to split the decisions. And in fact, divorce will lead to so so much stress because then you really have to split the decisions. And now you don't have to split the decisions, because if you're an anxious woman, you probably were drawn to some guy with ADHD or who's kind of passive because that was the guy that you got along with best, and you got to pick all of these different things. So is this saying that he shouldn't help in the house? Of course he should help in the house. No, nothing, never would I say that a man should not parent his own children. But what I'm saying is know thyself. And if thyself likes to make all the decisions, don't complain literally about that aspect. Because in a worst case scenario, you're just kind of bitching and moaning about it, and you're deciding that you're not going to have sex with your husband because fuck him, because he doesn't take over half the decisions. And then in like a tragic fucking plot twist, you figure out that like you actually wanted to make all the decisions, and everybody around you even knew that but was too scared to say anything, and like you weren't having sex with him because of your own idea that he ought to be doing something that you didn't even want him to do. And that actually happens. Like this isn't like a parable. Like this happens a lot, where after therapy, women are like, oh, I guess I really do like to decide where we go, what we do, and how we live, So, I'm not going to be unfair to him and tell him that the problem and the reason that I'm not into him has to be that he doesn't make half the decisions, because I don't actually want him to make half the decisions. And maybe I'm not into him because some other thing, like he kisses like a fish because I never trained him how to French kiss me, or my hormones are in the toilet because I'm 49, or, I've never addressed my sexual trauma history, so I don't want to sleep with him. Or maybe he's just a fucking asshole, and he's like an asshole in all these other different ways, but they don't really have to do with the fact that I somehow want him to take over half of the what the kids should eat, because I want to know 100% of what the kids should eat, because that's like something I get off on as a mom, and like so many women are like that, but they kind of don't know it till it's too late, and it stops them from working on the marriage in a real honest kind of way. I'm like so against this whole emotional labor paradigm. I feel that it's like fucked people, because ironically, I just saw one of my few negative reviews on my podcast. Thank you guys all for the positive reviews. Was that I curse like a sailor. Well, I'll tell you, this is a free thing, and I am never going to do something that I don't want to do for some free content that I'm putting out in the universe, such as sit there and remember not to curse. So I applaud those of you who can roll with it, and those of you who cannot, I am sorry, but you're probably not listening anyway anymore. But the point is this: if you're real about what you need and what you don't need, then the whole world opens up. Your whole marriage is so much easier to work on. Your whole life becomes clearer. So the emotional labor framework, there's like a bunch of women out there saying, I'm so mad that I have to like do Christmas cards every year and that he doesn't do half of it. Which half is he going to do? Is he going to pick out the photographer? You don't want him to pick the photographer. Is he going to pick the clothes you wear for the photo shoot? You don't want that either. Is he going to do the text of the card? You don't think that he's as funny as you. And then on top of it, why not interrogate why you even want to do this maelstrom of stress? Well, who the fuck needs to do it anyway? None of that stuff even gets interrogated if you take the intellectually lazy shortcut of calling it unwanted emotional labor. So I mean that's how I feel about it. Other people feel differently. Of course, you could find the way that they feel with any cursory Google search. So I am the lone, voice in the wilderness against this idea. And again, do I think men should do stuff in the house? Indubitably, I think they should do anything in the house possible. Sure. I talk all the time about how much my husband does around the house. Why do you think I'm able to record all these podcasts? Because my husband does so much stuff in the damn house. And that's wonderful, and it helps me super much. And I don't criticize what he does, because then I wouldn't be able to record these podcasts or really do anything else if I was too busy doing shit. But if you are the sort of person that thinks that you doing stuff is only because your husband doesn't do stuff, then you should listen to like a zillion on my podcast that talks about why that's a dynamic. Very, very few men can't do anything in the house unless, of course, and this would be on you. You married somebody who was basically living in like a hoarded apartment, like a raccoon, and you married him anyway. Well, then that shit's on you. And, we all make mistakes when we're young. But if he is a functioning human being, you are over functioning. So really, I should have really said this at first. This goes out to the over functioning women that then are like crying emotional labor about shit that they would beg to do and fight over doing and put in separation agreements to do or wish that they could when they were divorced. So try to think about that. Try to think about how much you love to be invested in every aspect of the children's existence before A, you shit all over, your husband for letting you do that thing that you like doing, and B, like you got to understand that was a personality type and it led you to marry somebody who would let you be the front runner on that. And also, you don't have to do any of it because believe me, your husband's not asking you to do it and the kids don't know shit. So if you decide that in your house Christmas is going to be, a fake tree that goes up the day before, cool. Ain't nobody going to complain except you, and then you'll get used to it and you'll be like, wow, this saved me a lot of shit, etc. So, this is just a different lens, and you should always kind of view it like this. You should say, would I be happier after divorce on this issue? Or would I not? Would it in fact make it worse? Because if it would make it worse, then yeah, we could kind of deal with things within the marriage, but I shouldn't complain about it and like even threaten divorce over it if after divorce, when I really think about it, this is some shit I would actually have wanted to do. So you see my point, and it's a different lens. My goal is always to give you a different lens and a different perspective, hopefully a new one and an interesting one. And now, I'm going to think, I'm going to get off and I'm going to think, and then I'm going to record if I could think about anything that's like this for men in this specific thing, and then I'll give you a PS. Sometimes I give a PS, so I'm going to do that right now. I thought of it. P.S. The one that's the equivalent for men goes back to the home project idea. I talk a lot about that women love home project, and you should probably get on board and come from a place of yes, because this is how many women have a creative outlet and they love the home project. Okay, fine. So a lot of men forget to think, okay, I don't want to spend $10,000 on, sprucing up the kitchen. Do I want to divide up half of our assets and give alimony if we are in a state that has it, plus child support, plus run 2 households, and on top of that be trying to save for my kids' college? Would that be a bit more expensive than this fucking $10,000? Yeah, it would. I say that all the time, by the way, with couples counseling. I'm like, what's cheaper? Is divorce cheaper, or is coming to see me cheaper? Or whoever else. So the point is that here's one that guys really have to think about too, for when they are not being very flexible financially, and instead they're making her count every penny and this and that. What about after divorce? That's going to take a lot more money right there. So maybe go into the home repair with a smile on your face, thinking, at least it's not a fucking divorce. Same thing as the emotional labor for women. Same thing as that. Do you really in fact, it's not exactly the same thing. I don't need to go into why the analogy doesn't hold completely, but either way, it's the sort of thing where the lens needs to be, would things be better after divorce in this regard? If not, perhaps it's not quite so bad now as I thought. All right, I was going to say good work, guys, because I say that at the end of some of my sessions, but this is not a session. I will talk to everybody soon. Have a great day.